Coming up on our newscast, in his first policy speech at National Assembly, President Yoon Suk-yeol vows to discuss strengthening economic cooperation with Washington and stressed the need to support North Korea in battling the pandemic. COVID-19 continues to take a toll on the regime, reportedly over 392,000 new suspected cases on Sunday, with a death toll surpassing 50. McDonald's will start selling all its restaurants in Russia. Brunel also agreed to sell its operations in the country to the city of Moscow. Hello, good week's off to a smooth start. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. At the National Assembly, President Yoon Suk-yeol called for bipartisan cooperation in passing the second extra budget proposal of the year and stressed the need to support North Korea against COVID-19. He also vowed to discuss strengthening economic cooperation with Washington when President Joe Biden visits Seoul. Yoon Jung-min starts us off.
6 days after his inauguration ceremony at the National Assembly, President Yoon Suk-yeol was back in Parliament Monday morning, this time to deliver his first policy speech and call for bipartisan support in passing his administration's $46 billion supplementary budget plan.
민생 안정이 그 어느 때보다 시급하다는 점을 고려하여 추경이 이른 시일 내에 확정될 수 있도록 국회의 협조를 간곡히 부탁드립니다.
Mr. Yoon stressed that across the aisle collaboration is now more key than ever considering the economic and security challenges faced by the nation both at home and abroad, including North Korea's advancing nuclear weapons and missile programs. The new commander-in-chief noted that the North has shown signs of preparing for its seventh nuclear test.
형식적 평화가 아니라 북한의 비핵화 프로세스와 남북 간 신뢰 구축이 선순환하는 지속 가능한 평화를 우리는 만들어가야 합니다.
On humanitarian assistance, though, the South Korean leader reiterated that his government's offer to provide coronavirus vaccines and other medical supplies to the North remains valid, free of any political or military consideration. President Yoon's parliamentary address on Monday came days before his very first one-on-one with his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden, set for Saturday in Seoul, where North Korea's latest provocations are expected to top the agenda. But that's not all.
이번 주에 방한하는 미국 바이든 대통령과 인도 태평양 경제 프레임워크를 통한 글로벌 공급망 협력 강화 방안을 논의할 것입니다. 공급망 안정화 방안뿐 아니라 디지털 경제와 탄소 중립 등 다양한 경제 안보에 관련된 사안이 포함될 것입니다.
Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
President Yoon will be visiting Kwangju on Wednesday to commemorate the May 18th Gwangju pro-democracy movement. Back in 1980, the suppression by the authoritarian government led to hundreds of civilian deaths. The trip to the city is a campaign pledge the conservative leader made when he went to the National Cemetery in Kwangju. At that time, he said the spirit of the pro-democracy movement should be inscribed in the Constitution, so eyes are on whether he mentioned steps to be taken in that direction. Upon Yoon's request, all ruling bloc lawmakers not dealing with other government business will be attending as well, a first for any main conservative party. A majority of the country's cities and provinces are led by the opposition Democratic Party, which could hold back parts of President Yoon's agenda. The local and by-elections coming up on June 1st could change that if the ruling bloc can build on its momentum from the presidential election. Kim Do-yeon explains further.
COVID-19 relief, real estate development, and even taxes. These are some of the areas that not only the president, but also regional governments have powers over in South Korea. On June 1st, voters will head to the polls to decide on governors or mayors of the 17 provincial governments. And with President Yoon's administration kicking off last week with big plans, the election results will have a huge impact on his 5-year term, as he will want the backing of regional governments with 4-year terms for the winning candidates. On the other hand, the Democratic Party of Korea will be able to redeem themselves following disappointment in the presidential election by taking regional chief posts such as Seoul Mayor or Governor of Gyeonggi-do Province, where they'll be able to influence the country's policies. So who exactly are voters electing? Most voters in South Korea will be voting in 7 different elections, from local district council members to regional education superintendents. There are around 4,100 seats up for grabs, and more than 7,600 candidates are running to fill those spots. How are things looking now? Currently, the 2 largest cities are run by mayors from the president's party, the People Power Party. However, the majority of regional governments are controlled by the Democratic Party of Korea, and the most populous province, Gyeonggi-do's top office, is only vacant as former Democratic Party of Korea's presidential candidate Izium resigned to run in the presidential race. How much power do regional governments have? The 17 regional leaders especially have enormous impact on the residents of their districts. Perhaps the most powerful being in the nation's capital, where the mayor oversees an annual budget of more than 30 billion US dollars and is responsible for around 10 million residents. The Seoul mayor participates in weekly cabinet meetings, and while the position does not include a right to vote, the winning candidate will have a direct channel to the president. What if positions are uncontested? Naturally, with so many posts open for elections, some will go uncontested, meaning the number of candidates is the same as open posts. This time around, nearly 500 positions have been filled without the need for a vote, a 5-fold jump since the last local elections 4 years ago. One explanation for this is that in regions where political preferences have become more distinct, the less popular parties have chosen to opt out. Who's eligible to vote? The recent introduction of a new law means the voting age has been lowered to 18 years old. All Koreans over that age are eligible to vote. One thing to note here is that for local elections, foreigners who have been permanent residents for at least 3 years are also able to participate. They are unable to vote in presidential or general elections. Official campaigning starts on Thursday, and early voting opens on the 27th and 28th of May. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now, North Korea is reporting a growing number of coronavirus cases. The regime's leader is reprimanding officials for failing to supply enough medicines to treat people. The reclusive state is also reportedly reaching out to China for help. Song Yoo-jin has the latest.
COVID-19 continues to take a toll on North Korea. The North's National Emergency Quarantine Command Center confirmed on Monday that 392,920 new suspected cases of the virus was reported on Sunday. There were 8 additional deaths to bring the total to 50. However, figures for tallies could be underreported due to shortage in testing equipment. Amid the escalating number of infections, the regime's leader Kim Jong-un criticized the supply of medication to pharmacies during a Politburo meeting of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea on Sunday. The state-run Korean Central News Agency reported that Kim reprimanded relevant officials for the delay in supplying previously ordered medication and for failing to regulate increased stockpiling and illegal distribution of medicine. The KCNA added that Kim laid out fresh virus prevention measures during the meeting, including mobilizing troops to stabilize medical supplies in the capital, Pyongyang. Meanwhile, in an effort to contain the virus, Pyongyang has reportedly asked Beijing for antivirus supplies. According to sources familiar with North Korea-China relations on Sunday, relevant discussions are currently underway, although no further details were given. China has previously said it will immediately provide assistance upon the North's request. The border between the two countries remains closed to contain the virus, but could reopen for supply shipments. However, despite attempts to curb the spread of COVID-19, forecasters say that Pyongyang could ultimately fail in their efforts. An analysis by CNN on Sunday local time pointed to a lack of healthcare infrastructure and testing equipment in the north, which could hinder it from treating a large number of patients suffering from an infectious disease. It added the regime possesses one of the world's most fragile public health systems, and a widely unvaccinated population paints a grim picture of the future there. 송유진, Arirang News.
North Korea apparently still hasn't responded to an offer from Seoul of medical aid to help the North in its fight against COVID-19. South Korea made an attempt to send a message to the regime at 11 a.m. Unification Minister Kwangju said reportedly attempted to send a message to his counterpart in the North, Kim Jong-un. The ministry is seeking to propose working-level talks about providing vaccines, medication, masks, and test kits. It also wants to share its experience and expertise in dealing with the virus. In his inauguration speech, Kwon stressed the importance of achieving the North's denuclearization and creating room for dialogue. As North Korea could be getting ready to conduct a nuclear test, Seoul's military is maintaining a strong defense posture. There are reports of the regime having working to miniaturize its nuclear weapons for years. Bae Eun-ji has the full story.
Speaking to reporters on Monday, a South Korean military official said the military is maintaining a strong defense posture in preparation for what the official called the worst-case scenario of the North conducting a nuclear test in the near future. Another military official said that by looking at the missiles that North Korea recently tested, and because Kim Jong-un in April mentioned tactical nuclear weapons, the regime has been focusing on miniaturizing these weapons for the past several years. In fact, there has been a lot of speculation that the North will carry out its 7th nuclear test for the purpose of developing smaller and lighter nuclear weapons. As for the timing, many experts say the North is almost ready for the next test, but it's up to Kim Jong-un to make the final decision. Earlier in the day, President Yoon Suk-yeol also mentioned in a speech to Parliament that North Korea is showing signs of preparing for a nuclear test.
제가 취임한 지 이틀 뒤인 지난 5월 12일에도 북한은 미사일 3발을 발사했습니다. 올해 들어서만 16번째 도발이며 핵실험을 준비하는 정황도 파악되고 있습니다.
Since March, satellite images have shown signs that Pyongyang is restoring one of the tunnels at the Punggye-ri nuclear test site, a tunnel that was demolished a few years ago. The North has carried out nuclear tests 6 times since 2006. If it does manage to conduct another test, it'd be the first one in nearly 5 years. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
Shifting our focus to other parts of the world, Ukrainian forces reached the Russian border after a successful counteroffensive in Kharkiv. Moscow's troops are reportedly waiting for reinforcements in preparation for another offensive. President Zelensky reiterated his belief that Ukraine will win the war. Kim Bo-kyung brings the updates.
A small group of Ukrainian soldiers are standing near a blue and yellow boundary marker, making various celebratory hand gestures as they reach the Ukrainian-Russian border following a successful counteroffensive against Russian forces in the Kharkiv region. Such success was able to liberate villages on the outskirts of the city.
After a decisive artillery attack, the Russians left really quickly. They didn't have time to loot much. We saw what we think were their headquarters TV sets and other stuff. A lot of positions were abandoned, flat jackets and helmets laying around.
According to the Kharkiv Oblast State Administration, success in the Kharkiv region led to around 2,000 civilians to return every day. 2 gas distribution stations are also back in operation, supplying gas to more than 3,000 people. Though there has been no shelling in the north of Ukraine, attacks on the eastern front are intensifying, with the heaviest combat taking place in Luhansk and Donetsk. According to the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, the Russians are gathering equipment and manpower closer to the industrial town Severodonetsk. The city's chemical plant and 11 high-rise buildings have already been hit. The Ukrainian General Staff said on Monday that Russia has focused its main efforts on Donetsk and is preparing an offensive concentrated in the area of Izium. Constant bombardment in the southern port city of Mariupol, the last bastion of hundreds of Ukrainian defenders, continues too, and negotiation to save them doesn't seem to have made much progress.
We are continuing very difficult and delicate negotiations in order to save our people from Mariupol, from Azovstal. We do this every day. And the main thing is that the agreements were fulfilled.
Though almost completely controlled by Russian forces, Zelensky showed strong will to regain the territory by saying Ukraine will one day host a Eurovision Song Contest in Mariupol. That comes after a symbolic win for folk rap group Kalush Orchestra, whose leader returned to Ukraine, where he runs a volunteering organization, and said a big celebration will take place after the war. Meanwhile, U.S. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said on Sunday that the Senate would on Wednesday vote to pass the largest aid package to Ukraine, worth about $40 billion. Ukrainian Foreign Minister met the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Berlin on Sunday local time. Blinken reportedly underscored the country's enduring commitment to supporting Ukraine while promising to seek a solution to export Ukraine's grain to international markets. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
After more than 3 decades in Russia, McDonald's decided to start the process of selling all its restaurants to exit the country. This follows the hamburger giant's announcement in March to temporarily close its 847 restaurants in Russia. McDonald's will look to sell them to a local buyer while keeping its trademark. The fast food chain was one of the first Western brands to set up a shop in Moscow just before the fall of the Soviet Union. Other Western companies have also agreed to pull out. French automaker Renault will sell its Russian business to Moscow and its stake of nearly 68% in Avtovaz to a state-owned industry research center. The price of wheat climbed sharply to a 2-month high following a temporary ban by India, the world's second-largest producer. Bloomberg reports wheat futures on the Chicago Board of Trade rose by around 6% on Sunday to trade at nearly $13 per bushel. India's ban is aimed at controlling rising domestic prices as a result of heat wave damage to its crops. Although India is not a major wheat exporter, the move led to a price shock as global wheat trade has already been struggling since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine together accounted for a third of global wheat and barley exports. South Korean automakers last month posted their all-time best figures in terms of eco-friendly model exports. That goes for both the number of cars shipped and their dollar value. Ji-young helps us look beyond the digits.
Despite the ongoing disruption to global supply chains, South Korea's exports of eco-friendly cars hit a record high in April, posting an increase for the 16th straight month. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy said Monday that outbound shipments last month came to around 48,000 units. This is up about 40% on year. Also, the dollar value of eco-friendly auto exports soared by 42%, hitting $1.32 billion in April. In addition, the dollar value of the eco-friendly vehicle exports accounted for more than 30% of South Korea's overall auto exports. The ministry attributed the rise to the popularity of hybrid and electric cars with new models including Hyundai Motors' Ioniq 5, Kia Motors' redesigned Sportage, and Renault Korea Motors' XM3 in particular doing well overseas. One expert says exports to developed countries are rising especially due to the tightening of environmental regulations.
South Korean car makers have switched quickly to making eco-friendly vehicles, so there are many models that can be exported. Particularly hybrid or electric models launched last year are in high demand, as they are high in quality and swept global awards.
Domestic sales of eco-friendly cars in April also reached a record high for the second month in a row. The number sold within the country has risen for 3 months in a row, standing at around 40,000 a month, up roughly 60% on year. In particular, sales of domestically produced eco-friendly cars jumped nearly 84% on year. However, the number of diesel cars sold in the country during the first quarter of this year have plunged by nearly 42% compared to the same period a year earlier, standing at around 44,000.
Because of the recent high oil prices, in particular the soaring prices of diesel, which exceeded those of gasoline recently, have caused the demand for diesel cars to fall, and in turn the demand for eco-friendly cars has risen.
He added the demand for eco-friendly cars is to accelerate further in the future both at home and abroad with the fall in popularity of conventional combustion engine cars. 엄지영, Arirang News.
With oil prices soaring, South Korea's flagship carrier is set to raise its fuel surcharge to another record high next month on international flights. According to Korean Air, this will raise the surcharge for an international one-way ticket to as much as around $228. This month, it's at about $210. Surcharges on domestic flights will rise from the current $11 to about $13. This could hurt demand for international travel, which has only just begun to recover since the nation eased COVID-19 restrictions for overseas visitors. In the world of sports, Son Heung-min has picked up 3 prizes at Tottenham Hotspur's Player of the Year award, an event run by the team's fan club. The South Korean forward was voted 1 Hotspur Player of the Season, 1 Hotspur Junior Members Player of the Season, and Player of the Year selected by official supporters. The ceremony was held Sunday following the Spurs' final home game of the season. This is the 3rd time Son nabbed those 3 awards. He achieved some career highs with 21 goals and 7 assists in the EPL with 1 game to go. BTS picked up 3 trophies at this year's Billboard Music Awards. They have now won at least 1 Billboard Award for 6 years in a row. In fact, the K-pop band now has bagged the most honors from that event than any group in history. Choi Min-jung tells us more.
BTS has yet again made history at the 2022 Billboard Music Awards, one of the 3 most prestigious music awards in the United States. The South Korean pop stars on Sunday won 3 awards from the total of 6 categories for which they were nominated. They won Top Duo or Group, Top Song Sales Artist, as well as Top Selling Song for their hit Butter, picking up all 3 gongs for a 2nd straight year. This also marks their 3rd win for Top Duo or Group, now sharing the record with One Direction. BTS was nominated for a total of 7 awards in 6 categories, with both Butter and Permission to Dance nominated for Top Selling Song. This is the highest number of nods seen by BTS for the awards. Last year, the boy band was nominated for 4 and won all of them. With a total of 12 Billboard Music Awards, BTS has now become the group with the most honors in the awards history, breaking Destiny's Child's previous record of 11. That record had been in place for 17 years. The group has also secured at least 1 trophy at the Billboard Music Awards for 6 straight years since their first nomination in 2017. This year's prizes were based on Billboard chart data from April 10, 2021 through March 26, 2022. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
South Korea will be seeing another spike in daytime temperatures tomorrow. The capital region will see highs of 26 degrees Celsius, which is warmer than the seasonal norms. Some areas like Kimcheon will even see readings similar to what we normally see in early July. The rise in daytime highs will also create wide temperature gaps of 10 to 20 degrees. Make sure to adjust accordingly. Under blazing sunshine, UV radiation levels will also be intense. Sunscreen will be a must tomorrow, as the entire nation will see UV ray index in the very high range. Also, with unseasonable heat, moisture levels are dropping significantly. Mountainous regions will see gusty winds at times, so please be extra careful with fires. Most regions will be under sunshine tomorrow. Morning lows in Seoul will start off at 14 degrees Celsius. As for the daily highs, Seoul and Kwangju will get up to 26 degrees, Chuncheon 27, and Gwangju will make it to 29 degrees. Temperatures will be on a rising trend this week, and dry spells will also intensify as no rain is in the forecast for the time being. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.